Well, Mr. Bond, came back for one more time, didn't you? So, No Time to Die. The final Daniel Craig Bond film. I did not know when I was going to get around to this. I knew I'd see it eventually, but I wasn't going to go to the theater to catch it. And I didn't know when it would become either cheap enough to rent or just show up on a streaming service that I already had. So I didn't know when I'd get to it. Well, it was on the plane when I was flying to and from Los Angeles. I ended up seeing it slightly in parts because the Wi-Fi on the plane was very spotty, and that's how you had access to the movie stuff, was connect to the plane's Wi-Fi and get it that way. But I did see the whole thing eventually. Basically, first half on the way there, second half on the way back. And you could certainly argue that that is not an ideal way to take in the movie. Maybe that's even true. I'm copping to that early on. But this was not good. It wasn't. And I do something I don't normally do, which I did check some of the critical and fan thoughts on this. And I was kind of shocked to see that it was better reviewed by a decent amount than Spectre. It's not that I think it's worse than Spectre. I don't, really. Spectre is really deeply awful. At least its second half is, and that does severely sink the movie. But the thing is, there really is no way that I can understand why someone who didn't like Spectre and reviewed that badly would like No Time to Die and review it better. That just doesn't click for me. Because pretty much everything wrong with Spectre is here. It was all ported over, intact, as is, unfixed, unchanged. So it boggles my mind. I'll try not to get too hung up on Spectre, but I suppose the one other thing that I'll say is that I really get the sense watching this that the makers desperately were hoping Daniel Craig would agree to 2 more movies, but they only got him to agree to 1, which is probably why this is damn near 2. So I say 2, 3. It's damn near 3 hours freaking long. And why do I say that? Well, because there's a whole lot of stuff that's in here out of simply obligation. Pretty much everything having to do with Blofeld and Spectre itself is here because it was brought up last time, but not fully resolved, so they have to tie it off. That, in an ideal world, narratively ideal anyways, would have been its own film, wrapping up Spectre and then doing this final thing against the villain of this film, Safin. We'll get to him. So the fact that it has to be crammed in as a sizable subplot in the front half of this just to deal with all that and then move on, again, feels like I'm seeing what was hoped to be 2 movies crammed into a single space. I feel that a little bit also with some of the characters who we see early on who don't come back, and again, feel kind of detached. The big one, I'll give you the warning when I get into proper spoilers. This is just talking about a character who appears. The big one being Paloma. Now, Paloma is the agent that Bond hooks up with when he's infiltrating the whole Spectre meeting thing. And she's fantastic. I love everything about Paloma. I love that she comes in and she seems nervous, she seems undertrained, she seems inexperienced, and then the instant the bullets start flying, she kicks so much ass. And here's the thing. I don't know, and the film doesn't definitively tell me, whether her whole inexperienced, I've only had 3 weeks training thing was an act, or whether she really is as inexperienced as she says, but she's just that freaking good. Either one works. I love it either way. And I feel like she would have been the Bond girl in a film that had been entirely devoted to tying off Spectre, as opposed to appearing in about half an hour and being awesome and then never showing up again. Okay, I am going to start to get into what would be considered legit spoilers. And I do want to be careful about that because I had like the big thing about the ending already spoiled to me accidentally from people who were talking about an earlier Bond film and just casually dropped it. Yeah, I'm calling you out, Kill James Bond podcast. I like you a lot. I like listening to all you folks, but like, come on! You were talking about Skyfall 2 films earlier and you drop what happens at the end of this. Not cool. Anyways, that's your elongated spoiler warning. So, I suppose the other thing that is worth highlighting that I liked, that like feels notable. There's other stuff that's decent. It's decently filmed. Cinematography is pretty good. The performances are, for the most part, solid. Craig seems to be more committed than he was in Spectre, probably because he knows he definitely does not have to do any of these ever again. And I did actually kind of like the idea of somebody hijacking Spectre's plot. Just as a general concept, I like that. I'm a fan of wild card villains who come in and disrupt the intentions of other villains. It's one of the things I like about Heath Ledger's Joker, that he comes in and is just completely disruptive, not only to Batman and to the cops, but to the mob bosses who have been running Gotham for ages. I like that kind of villain who just comes in and throws off everybody, good and bad alike. So that aspect I also like. That's probably about it as far as I'm going to say for things I like. Again, that's not to say there was nothing else good. It's just, that's kind of what's sticking in my head. And both of those things are, again, located to the front half of what probably should have been its own film. But where to start with all the stuff that doesn't work? Well, I've already kind of brought up Spectre, so let's do that. How much of a waste does it feel that in the previous film, bad as it was, all the build-up to the reveal of this organization and of Blofeld, and we never see him do anything? I mean, we really don't. We have him in Spectre talk about all the stuff he's done, most of which I don't buy. The whole, I am the orchestrator of all your pain. God, that was such garbage, nonsense, idiocy, stupid. Didn't buy it. But like, he didn't do much in Spectre, and he does nothing in this except die. I mean, I suppose you might as well kill him off. You're not using him all, but like, what a waste. You spent the entire last film building up to this guy, implied that you had been building up to him for the 3 films prior to that, and then just kill him off to deal with some other guy. Like, this is so wasteful. It's not quite on the level of James Bond dropping Blofeld down a smokestack in the opening of For Your Eyes Only, but it's not that far off. It's a waste. And it retroactively kind of makes Spectre even worse, because Spectre builds up the reveal of Blofeld, gives us Blofeld, you wonder what's going to happen with that, and the answer is basically nothing. So there's that. There's Madeleine Swann. So this is another holdover problem from Spectre. In Spectre, they banked way too hard on the idea of how much Bond cared about Madeleine Swann. And I didn't buy it. I didn't buy why she would matter to him more than anyone else that he's ever been around. Here's the thing. I bought it with Vesper. With Vesper Lind, that was basically kind of his first in a way. So that cut him and got into him and sunk its claws into him in a way that things hadn't before. But after that, he steeled himself. We watched him do that, and I don't buy that he let his guard down with her. Definitely not in the short amount of time that he was around her in Spectre. And now they try and bank on that even further. And they almost do what I would have needed them to do to get me to buy this. Which is, they open with this whole thing of him and Madeleine being together and being functional and happy. I needed them to stay that way so that I could see them interact, so that I could see them be a couple, so I could get invested in their relationship rather than simply the concept of their relationship, which is what this thing is asking me to get invested in. Because then we have the bombing at Vesper's tomb, and he thinks Madeleine's involved, and he sends her off on a train, and then we don't see her again for ages because sheer bloody coincidence, she's Blofeld's shrink. I guess I'll let that one go. Like, that's a standard movie coincidence nonsense. But all of the time when they were apart, when they weren't together, I'm not saying I needed her physically there all the time, but I needed them to still be a couple. I needed to believe he was fighting to be for the life to get back with her, that was part of what was driving him. That I could have bought. Because, look, to make a comparison I'm not sure anyone else would ever make, I actually quite like Mission Impossible 3. And Tom Cruise rarely has great romantic chemistry in that one. Or any film he's in. I'm not even sure he had great romantic chemistry in that one, but I was more committed into his relationship in that because they started already together when the film started. They seemed solid and caring and loving of each other all the way through. So when she was put in danger, I bought his desperation. I bought his caring. They almost did that here, but they hadn't put her on a train and then act like he didn't care and then frickin' sulk forever like we've already seen him do over Vesper. So we're also retreading old ground because he's all bitter and thinks he was betrayed and yada, yada, frickin' yada. So that all comes back and they almost address it the way I at least kind of needed them to, but they didn't, which means yet again, I'm watching a situation where you are banking on this specific relationship too hard and you're putting too much weight on it and it's breaking. For me, at least. I don't buy it. Like, it is slightly better than it was in Spectre in terms of selling it, but like, it's not good enough for how much weight is put on it. Then there's the kid. Now, again, part of this is going to be a me thing. I do not enjoy watching children being endangered and or traumatized. I don't like watching it. I understand the reasons to do it narratively, and I understand that sort of thing. I never enjoy watching it, ever. So inherently, I already don't like her. Not like dislike her as a character, but I dislike her presence. I dislike the fact that she is here. And the concept of giving Bond a kid, on paper, like, yeah, maybe, but in terms of how things actually pan out, it really narratively would have made no difference if instead of Safin like using the kid to get Swann under his sway or try to, and then use that as leverage, functionally it's no difference than if he had just kidnapped Madeleine right off the bat. Like, the kid does not, her presence narratively does almost nothing except become a massive death flag for Bond. Because, of course, he dies at the end of this, which was the thing that I knew and the thing that was spoiled, and maybe would have come across as gutsy if I didn't know. Unfortunately, as I tend to point out, I can only review this with the perspective that I have, and the perspective that I have already knew. And so it doesn't feel gutsy because I'd already been mulling it over. It feels more like something that Craig demanded to guarantee they would never, ever, ever ask him to do this again. I didn't enjoy Felix dying. That I just didn't like it. Like, if you want to get him injured, take him out of the situation. Heck, you want to call back to his injuries from the earlier incarnations within the film franchise and or from the books. Have him, while they're trying to get out from that boat, get attacked by sharks. Lose a leg. References are fun. Callbacks are fun. Well, I mean, getting your leg bitten off isn't exactly fun, but I would have rolled with that better than, like, let's just kill him. Okay, let's do that. The car chases are really good. This is random and out of nowhere, but like some of the car stunts especially were quite well done. I said we'd get back to Safin. Okay, so I don't get this guy. And part of this is compounded by the problem that we have to spend so much time tying off Blofeld at the front end that we don't really get the kind of villain that I think they're trying to make him is the kind that needed more time dedicated to him. But between the front end dealing with Spectre and then most of the rest of the time being sunk character-wise into Madeleine and Bond, Safin is undercooked for what I think they're trying to do with him. And in terms of his, like, trying to pick apart his psychology of, you know, what it is he's doing, but his desire to protect Madeleine and keep her around, and like how he views Bond. I have like a half sense of most of this. Seriously though, what was his plan and why was he doing it? The whole thing with Hercules. Like, what? I don't properly understand what his, like, I understand why he took out Spectre. I get that. That part I get. After he did that, what was he doing? With I'm sorry, I said Heracles. Let's say it the way they said it. Why? Why did he want to wipe out such a huge portion of the population? Maybe it was said like in a throwaway line somewhere. There was no subtitle option on this thing when I viewed it, so there might have been a line like buried under the soundtrack or under something else that I just didn't catch. That's possible, but if that's all we got for his motivation, it's not enough. I don't understand what it is he's trying to accomplish. And if I don't understand what it is he's trying to accomplish, I don't understand why he has these resources and all these people are following him. I need to know what his goal and his ideology is so that I understand how he has this kind of power. This was also a problem with Blofeld. Like, because one of the things that I never bought about Blofeld and why that whole thing didn't work, and Spectre, I know I said I wouldn't come back to it. I guess I lied. Was that he revealed his ultimate motivation was just to screw with Bond. I'm like, I understand along the way you were kind of making people rich, but like, how do you build a multinational criminal organization with that kind of loyalty that he had around the concept of just harassing some dude? Yeah, no, I don't buy it. Now with Safin, I don't really know what it is he's trying to do. Like, I don't know if this is supposed to be population control, if it's more targeted than that. He kind of implies that these are people who need to die, but like with the sheer number of people it is, like, how the hell do you know that? Like, I don't get it. I don't get what he's doing. Since I don't get what he's doing, I don't know why anyone would follow him. I don't know what these other people are. I'm not sure the movie gets how Heracles works, because it has this whole thing like it has to be programmed to target specific DNA, but then they drop the scientist into, and I checked on like synopsis, it's just what, like a vat of the friggin' nanobots, and he just melts. When did they get his DNA? And plus, how are you developing nanobots in a vat? Like, what was that? What was that stuff that they dropped him in and he melted? If that wasn't Heracles, what the hell was it? And why? Why? What was the point of the poison garden? What was any of that? It's probably supposed to be thematic or whatever, but again, I don't understand Safin well enough for it to resonate as a thematic thing. New 007 was fine. She was fine. Q was fine. M was fine. Tanner was fine. I don't know what they're going to do after this. I'm assuming they're going to reboot again, because I did wait through the credits and check at the end, and they did put up James Bond will return. Not 007 will return. James Bond will return. So that to me says new reboot. Guess we'll wait and see. I don't know. In my mind, there are two good Daniel Craig movies. There's Casino Royale, which is good, but also overrated by a lot of people. And there is Skyfall, which is also very good. Also overrated in some circles, but I enjoy those two a lot. Quantum could have been good, if not for being shot in the world's worst shaky cam. Like, that is a case where the filming technique truly kills the entire movie. Spectre is an hour of really good Bond stuff, followed by an hour of dreck. And No Time to Die is just this bloated, lumbering thing that is bogged down by the weight of what came before it. And It just ponders along until it collapses. No Time to Die. I wonder if this will get the James Bond fandom mad at me too. I seem to be pissing off a lot of fandoms lately. Been pissing off the Batman fandom, pissed off a chunk of the Doctor Who fandom when I didn't like Village of the Angels. Let's see if I can piss off the James Bond fans. There's probably others I'm forgetting. I'm not trying to tick anybody off. I just seem to be doing it lately because I'm sorry, the stuff is not good. Not to me. Maybe you liked it. Clearly, more people liked it than Spectre, and that's great. I just don't get why. I just don't. But whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon's how I pay my bills. If you feel like supporting me after this little ranty nonsense. But in any case, like, share, subscribe will help me regardless. But don't worry too much about it. Take a relaxed attitude around here, so you just come on back next time you need a break. It's the end credits. Means I gotta shout out some patrons. This month, it is Turok, Oliver B., Linda Walters, TT, Robin Powell, Frenobulax, The Poodle, Eidolon, Tracy Scrabbit, Dharma, Michael Doyle, Vincent Paul Bartolucci, Angry Casperl, Adam Lefty Taylor, Robin Moore, Shayla Gourlay, and Bookworm. Thanks so much for your support.